Humidus podcast.
Welcome, you beautiful bastards, to the Humidus podcast with me, Hammer, and of course, the explorer himself. It is
Stef, right back from the unknown depths of unpopular opinion, which we'll get to later. How you all doing?
juicy. So, what's up, Steph? You doing good?
Yeah, I mean, I just got through Last of Us. Can't wait to get into that later. And I recently fell victim to the Steam sales.
Oh yeah, that's a classic trap right there.
Yeah, my wallet is considerably lighter now.
Mm-hmm.
How about you?
Yeah, well, I bought the Satisfactory like you did, which was incidentally a game I had been following for quite some time, and it was on only 10%, but still take what you can get, you know.
Yeah.
But I didn't. That was my the extent of my spree so far. But it's it's still ongoing. So
And there's a lot of indie games out there right now, and quite a few titles that I've been wanting to get into. And considering that the sale is quite generous, I think that I might be buying more than I already did. But so far, my catch has been Satisfactory and Wilder Myth. I'm not completely sure how it's supposed to be pronounced, but it's also a game which is like I hadn't heard of it at all before I saw it on the Steam page, and it seems to be this kind of fantasy, more interactive storytelling version of XCOM with like a kind of like a paper art kind of interesting art style.
Yeah,
and it's a tactical RPG, and I feel like can't get much better than that for me.
no, that is your niche.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and there's just so many like franchises and indie games and everything. Like RimWorld, also a really good game. It's just 10% as well, but still great game, value for money there.
Right.
I think it's about $20-something.
I mean, I see that The Forest is out for $7.
Did you play The Forest?
No, not yet.
Oh, that's actually a very good game, even though it's a little bit clunky and like the mechanics are not, like a AAA game level of polish, but it's got its own aesthetic that is very unique.
Yeah, and it's getting very positive, I see, and so it's definitely on my to-do list.
Yeah, like the people who like The Forest really like it. Like I played like 100 hours, I think, on that game.
All right, that's respectable.
Yeah, it's a very, very unique experience, I would say. Very unique.
Right.
Even though it's like, okay, it's a zombie survival-ish game. It's not. It's very unique in its presentation. Like they have like a very pseudo realistic graphic style that you can almost like you're watching an old VHS, tape. It's like very a little bit blurred and a little bit like low res feel. But that kind of adds to the immersion. It looks more realistic that way. And it's very like the filters are very like gray, bluish. So it feels like you're watching it through like some kind of lens. And it's very scary. It's a very scary game, at least the first couple of hours you play. I think you would love it, actually. It's like there's like some kind of crazy cannibalistic tribe or something that roams the island.
Of course.
But and yeah, those are, you can kind of hear them when they're running really, really fast around the forest. They're making like like these kinds of sounds. And yeah, it's really unnerving. And you try to kind of build up your defenses as fast as fucking possible. But the thing is that they can destroy the defenses. You can turn on like indestructible defenses, which I tend to do.
Yeah.
But you have like what's called mutants also
Yeah.
that become a little bit later. There's like an algorithm as you progress, they will come more often, but they are fucking terrifying, like giant, like mutant heaps of flesh that hunt you down, and they're like large. It's like one mutant that's called like a cow man or something, which is basically like a big fat baby body without a head.
What the fuck?
Or does it have a head? I need to Google that.
I mean, this
I mean,
game sounds like
yeah, it has a head. It's like a big scary baby thing that, and it charges you, and when it runs around you can hear the ground is like vibrating, like doom doom.
oh
And
no.
then when it sees you, it starts charging. You can hear like dun 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 dun.
Oh no.
Yeah, that's fucking. The atmosphere in the game is really, really spot on. I don't know how they managed to like create that, because it's not the most polished game, but it's something about the lighting and the filters
Yeah.
that kind of makes it very realistic somehow.
So the vision is quite
And
good.
yeah, I think the vision is very good, and I think that they accomplished what they tried to do with
Right.
kind of limited resources. And another thing is that you can't really get very powerful weapons, and the most powerful weapons are like things that you find uh, in like caves and stuff.
Mm.
And it's really, really daunting to go down in the caves because you can't see shit, and the cannibals are down there. They just stand still in the darkness, and when you
Oh
come with a
no.
light source, they charge you. So it's a scary game, and you need to kind of, and you can really build like large structures, huge structures, if you want to, if you're patient. You can build
So
like a tower that's 11 stories tall if you want to. You can build
jeez.
like a skyscraper. Yeah.
But if you do that, you're gonna be relatively safe inside it, right?
Yeah, and that's like one of the I love that kind of gameplay element that you can, if you kind of can bear with the fear and slowly build yourself a base, then you'll get more and more safe in the base. But
Yeah.
as soon as you leave the base, you're just
The cowman is there.
the cowman is standing right behind you. It's charging, and the thing about the cowman is that if he bumps into you, you fall, you trip over, and he will like do some he's got so much momentum, so he can't stop on a dime. He needs to
Mm.
kind of like do like a large turn and comes back at you, and you fall over, and your guy is like desperately trying to get us back on his feet, as you can like see this huge monster like turning in a huge circle back towards you. You hear the dun 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 dun. It's
Oh
really
no.
nerve-wracking. So it's a cool game, and they're gonna make the Forest 2, I think.
Oh really?
Yeah,
Kind of excited to see where that goes then. But yeah, I mean, you're selling me on this game pretty hard right now, so I'll probably get
I
that
mean
too.
we can play that on co-op if you want to. It's
Well,
a little bit hard to get into, but
yeah,
once you like get the hang of it, yeah. Sons of the Forest. It's gonna be named the sequel.
I'm guessing it's still easier to learn than Green Hell.
Yeah, but it does really remind you of Green Hell.
Yeah,
It's very similar to Green Hell. It's not, as many hazards. It's more easy to kind of cook and get water and stuff like that.
yeah, because I'm guessing it's the difficulty of this game lies more in the enemies and the environment more than it does the actual survival aspect of it, right?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And in this game, you kind of have to. The story is very it's very enigmatic, and you need to like search for clues and stuff around the island. So
That's
basically
cool though.
you're stuck. Yeah, it's very cool. I love it. I mean, and the story is bonkers. So but the thing is that you kind of crash land on this island,
Mm-hmm.
and you slowly discover what the island is about, but you're not really only in a forest, you're on an island.
Yeah.
the So the thing is that the cannibals are kind of roaming the island, but something something kind of went on there, with the mutants and stuff, and there's an explanation for that in the story.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's the first time you play this game on single player alone with like a headset on, it's really scary. But when you get used to it, it's not that scary. So, but yeah, you can absolutely co-op that if you want to.
Please. I mean, we have that, and we have Satisfactory as well that we need to do co-op on and build the
Oh
Empire of
yeah.
Mankind.
I live to serve.
I mean,
So yeah,
imagine if you actually had an Imperium of Man, kind of like Mechanicus mod to Satisfactory,
yeah, that
where
would
you
be like
just you just change the
perfect.
aesthetic for it, and then you just kind of make yourself into one of those like tech priests, and then you just have a lot of those sound bites from Dawn of
Yeah, and
War.
you're yeah, and you're gonna convert the entire planet into like a forge world. That's
Yeah,
the that you're not gonna leave or whatever. You're gonna make a forge world. That would be awesome. That would be really cool. Probably someone will do that.
probably. Or if not, please do. If there's some modders among our 1.5 listeners, get on that shit.
Oh yeah, probability is high. Okay, so but did you locate any other? I see the Terraria is like 50%, like 35 kroner, like $3, $4.
Yeah, Terraria, I think I have already, if I'm not
Yeah,
mistaken. Let me see. Yeah, I do. I do. I've
yeah,
played a grand total of 20 minutes.
yeah. Right. Okay, so Terraria, I love that game, but you really need to kind of appreciate that 2D Minecrafty, like RPG, like yeah,
Yeah,
style of game.
I don't know why I stopped playing or why I only played it so little. I think it just came out in a time of a lot of other games, and probably I just booted it up, tried it for a bit, and then I just like had to do something else, and then yeah, you know how it goes.
Yeah,
Um,
I know. I've got like 20 games that are like that
yeah, exactly.
in my library.
So I bought this one, and I also bought the space version. What's it called again? The
Yeah, not Star Citizen, but oh my god, Star something.
Yeah, not Stardew Valley either. There's another one, right?
Oh, it is. Oh my god, what? Yeah, it's not Stardew Valley. No, no, no. It's come on. I should really
Oh,
know
anyway,
this.
I have that one
Yeah,
too, but
that
it's the
that
same
other
thing.
game. Yeah, I don't think that's as good. I
Probably
mean,
not.
but I guess it's down to kind of your taste, but
I mean, you
I
hear
don't really
lots
think
about it
that.
too, so it makes
Yeah,
sense.
I mean it's Terraria. It just got its the last update
Hmm.
like what 2-3 weeks ago or something,
Yeah,
and the game first came out like 10 years ago now or something like that. Yeah, it's
yeah,
wild.
something like
And
that.
I bought it like for I don't know $15 or something. Back in 2010 or yeah, it was really. I mean, I played it for almost 400 hours.
Yeah, I
That
mean,
was that was worth it.
safe to say that you are a fan of this game.
Yeah,
Um,
I mean, it was 351, so not quite 400, but
I mean, it's up there, and I
yeah,
mean, if we're talking other games that I'm interested uh, in the Steam sales, one of them is Disco Elysium.
yeah, that's a great game.
Have you tried
That's
it?
a great. No, but I've been following it.
Right.
I've been following, so
Yeah, same here. And it seems like, I mean, it's kind of like one of those hardcore RPGs, but with a kind of different focus. And I've
mhm.
heard nothing but praises for it. So there's also one of those games where, you know, if I have a weekend to kill with absolutely nothing happening, like that's the kind of game I would just download and play the hell out of.
Yeah, and I mean it just looks really, really. I think it's 25%, so it's a good,
Still a
quite a
solid
good deal.
price. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a solid price. I think you get a lot of value for money here if you like this kind of game.
Definitely.
It's kind of like, is it? It's kind of like the first Fallout games.
Yeah, I'd
Because
say that's a
there's
fair
more like
comparison.
but it's like a very unique aesthetic, also kind of, yeah, a nice artsy kind of brushy aesthetic.
Yeah,
Like,
and considering that the setting is kind of different too, because normally these games would be either, kind of like XCOM, or it would
yeah,
be something like post-apocalyptic, or it would be fantasy. But in this case, I think you're playing as a detective or like an investigator or something, and it's more
yeah,
mystery oriented, it seems. And the role-playing possibilities in the game is apparently quite elaborate.
yeah. It looks really, really cool, but I think it's like a kind of in a dystopian setting, I guess.
Yeah, but it's not quite as post-apocalyptic as, say,
No, it's
Fallout.
not. No, it's not like everything has gone to nuclear shit.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, conclusion is there are a lot of good fucking games out there, boys and
Yep.
girls.
And now you heard Hammer and Steph's warmest recommendations. So go out there, rack some hours up, and just enjoy the sweat.
Yeah, just enjoy that dank sweat.
And don't bother with your family's disappointment. It's irrelevant in the grander scale of
I don't
things.
care about that. Don't care about that. You know that the true world is in, the virtual world is the true place to be, guys.
Yeah.
Don't live your real life, your biological life, as I like to call it. That's worth nothing. Okay, so today we have like a really good special topic. It's going to be The Last of Us 2, like we mentioned, and you've completed the entire game, Steph.
Yeah. Yep.
So we're going to try to do like a spoiler-free first segment for those of you who don't want to be spoiled on this game, because it's probably a game you want to play if you like these kind of third-person action, stealthy, story-heavy games.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Uh, because like it or not, this game is gonna be. It is one of the biggest games this generation,
Yeah,
and
yeah, definitely.
yeah, and I think the story. I mean, the leaks were unfortunate, and
Yeah, yeah,
because it created this kind of maelstrom of hate and just like to a certain
yeah. So
point also misinformation, but it also kind of ruined some of the how to say, it made it seem like the leak was the ending of the
mhm,
game,
mhm.
but it really
Yeah,
wasn't. And in the yeah, we'll get to that in the spoiler section. But before we
yeah,
begin the impression talk as well, just like try the game for yourself.
yeah. Try not to get biased by other people's opinions. I mean, it's kind of always like that. But that, for those of you who don't know, there was like a giant leak, and major story plot points were leaked by someone, a disgruntled employee or something.
And turn
And
out it was a hacker in
it was
retrospect.
a hacker. Okay,
Yeah.
yeah. So it was a hacker, and people were very, very pissed, even though they only saw like kind of bits and pieces of the story. So they kind of got it a little bit wrong, as I understand it. But they got very upset about some choices the writers made, and yeah, that kind of shadowed or colored the entire game, the
Yeah.
entire process. And if you just come at it with like a totally neutral perspective, that yeah, I think that this is a really, really solid game. But Steph will kind of do a spoiler-free introduction now, and then we'll talk about the controversy in the last
Yeah.
segment.
Yeah, we'll clearly notify you when we go into spoilers, so that if you're out there and you just want to hear the impressions first, we'll let you know when to switch off and go and play the game. But for those of you who've played the game and want some other input on it, or if you don't care about the spoilers, you just want to kind of like hear the thoughts on the whole shebang, then stick around. So, but we're gonna first of all just talk about the general impressions I have of the game, without spoilers. And I would say this game, in large part, feels like the first one with a couple of new, let's say, features, gameplay wise. So,
Yeah.
if you weren't much of a fan of the gameplay in the original, you're probably not going to find much more to like in this one. That's to be said.
Yeah.
So I do understand the criticism that it's very too similar to the first one, that it hasn't evolved much. And yes, I do agree to that. But for me, I didn't really mind the gameplay on the first one because I like the whole you're not you're not a super soldier, you're not a trained, well, I guess in Joel's terms, he kind of has become that, but it's still realistic in the sense that, or more
Mhm.
realistic, and it's you're not supposed to be a one man army, at
No.
least not to the extent that you're used to in action games, like let's say Call of Duty or whatnot. And that's why
Yeah.
like you have shaky aim, and you have to scrounge for resources, and enemies can overwhelm you,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
and this kind of thing. So, and of course, if you play the game really hard, you'll get so good at it that you can play super aggressively and still nail it.
Mm.
But it takes a while to get there. But yeah, one of the things that is with this game is that the graphics, I would say, is some of the best I've seen, especially on the PS4. Like,
Yeah.
how to say this? Just even the grass, like the grass looks, you know, the grass in this game makes other games' grass look like video game grass, if you know what I mean.
Mhm. Yeah.
And just like the draw distances, the vistas you get to see, and just like the amount of details in everything from things that are close by to everything that's in the like all the way to the far off background. The graphics
Yeah.
here, I feel, just absolutely knocked it out of the park. It's by far a really solid effort from Naughty
Yeah.
Dog.
So the
Um,
presentation is like what, 10 out of 10?
yeah, I'd say so. Presentation, atmosphere, graphics, these things
What about
are,
sound?
yeah, sound too. But a lot of the
Atmosphere.
sounds here are kind of similar to the first game. So let's say, for
Yeah.
example, the sound of the infected. Most of the infected here are are the same ones from the first ones. You have the normal runners who kind of makes this crying sound. They just sound like
Yeah.
sobbing people or like people that are in pain.
Yeah.
And then you have the clickers, which are pretty infamous, and they're still as scary and as fucking imposing here as they were in the first game. Like, if you're fighting off some runners and they overwhelm you, and then suddenly you hear the fucking clicker coming rushing at you, you're just like you still get as
Oh.
much panic here as you did before.
Yeah, right.
Um, and there's a couple of new enemy types in here as well that I felt were appropriately annoying to deal with.
Mm. Yeah.
um, and you know, there's also some new factions in terms of human enemies. And like you have one faction which is kind of like they operate like the standard kind of bandit humans, or like organized normal humans, so to speak.
Mhm.
And then you have this other faction which communicate by whistling to each other, and they use more of
Oh.
like low tech weapons. Like they do have rifles and such as well, but then a lot of them are using bows and arrows and charge at you with like melee weapons.
Yeah.
And the first time you meet them, it's actually, I jumped pretty far.
Yeah.
So that scared the fuck out of me. But eventually, they're not as scary. But the first time you meet them, it's like, whoa, what the fuck? It comes out of nowhere. Um, and Yeah, gameplay wise, it's like that. And the other thing is that, of course, you play. This is not really a spoiler at this point. Is that you play as two characters. so you see the whole story from two different perspectives. And
Mm.
Ellie, of course, is one character you play as, and she is more stealthy, so she has more of she has less health, but she has more stealth-oriented skill trees. So she can make traps. She
Mm.
has Molotovs and a lot more options for silent takedowns, these kind of things. And she has a switchblade, which causes her to, unlike the first game, she doesn't have to craft shivs to stealth kill clickers, for example, or the tougher human enemies. Um,
Okay.
yeah. But on the other hand, you have Abby, which is this fucking super muscular monster of a woman
Uh-huh.
who
Okay.
is kind of like the opposite. She's more of a gung ho, like has more health. She, instead of using her switchblade, she just punches her enemies to death, which is pretty hilarious.
Oh,
And she has more of like her arsenal is more military oriented, so she has more like
yeah.
more heavy weaponry. She does have some stealthy weapons too, but, like she can still craft silencers and these kind of things. But she has more.
Mm.
Ultimately, she's more of a, let's say, if Ali is Dex, she is Strength, kind of like that.
Yeah.
And
Uh,
of course, I a lot of people don't like Abby, but I
no.
actually enjoyed playing as her a lot. No matter how the story went, I felt like, all right, I'm not buying this new character quite yet, but at least she's fun to play as. And then,
Yeah.
eventually it would change. But I would say that Abby is just as fun to play as, gameplay wise, as Ellie.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
so
Depends on like what kind of style you prefer, maybe.
to some extent, yeah.
Some people are very fond of that stealth, very, very like silent takedown
Yeah.
style of gameplay.
And of course Abby can do that too, but Ellie is
Yeah.
definitely the shine, like the
Yeah.
more of the stealth focus.
But but Ellie can also be a little, gung ho if you want to,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah. Of course, she still
Yeah.
has a shotgun, she has a revolver, and she has all these things. But it's not
Yeah.
like, I would say Abby plays more like Joel in the first game, where she
Yeah, right.
can like rush up and just like fucking knock people to fucking pieces.
Yeah.
Whilst Ellie, being a smaller, slender girl, she has like faster attacks, but or like she is more dependent on dodging, I guess you could say.
Yeah. Yeah, right.
So yeah. Um, Other than that, what to say?
So, yeah. You like that aspect, but some people didn't like
Yes, and I do
kind
think,
of the duality.
yeah, definitely. That's a huge divisive point, and also where the story
Yeah.
takes these two characters. I'm of the opinion, I'm not going to get into it right now, but like why the whys and hows, but I would say
Mm.
that for me, the story worked.
Yeah.
So I thought that, like, I tried to go in as bias free as I could. Unfortunately, I did get spoiled for like in terms of what happened, but I never saw the leaks. I never saw the videos, the footage. I just read it.
Yeah.
So maybe that helped. But when I played the game and I saw the story unfold, I felt like the game got the emotions from me that it wanted.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but I do understand that that doesn't work. It doesn't work that way for everybody, and ultimately it
No.
depends on how you handle certain things in this game.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Right.
but for me, it worked absolutely. Is it a 10 out of 10 game overall? No, I don't think so. It has its problems, but I would say it's a solid 8, and it's a good title. It has a very emotional story, and it's one of the first games in a long time that got a response from me from the depiction of violence.
Mm.
And I'm pretty
Yeah.
jaded. I'm pretty fucking cynical about these things. Growing up, like I played Doom from when I was 6. You know, I've
Yeah.
seen some shit, but this game has like, not when you not in the gameplay. I mean, that's also pretty violent, and they try to get emotional beats from you there as well by like having all the NPCs that you fight. They have names, so if you kill one guy, one of his friends will be like, Gavin. this kind of thing. Trying
Yeah.
to but
Yeah.
the funny thing is though, that it kind of wears off when there's like 20 Gavins you kill eventually.
Yeah. Yeah.
Some names kind
Should have
of,
like
yeah.
a larger repertoire of names.
Yeah, exactly. But
And
I get what
examples.
they're trying to do,
Yeah.
and to some extent it worked. But the cutscenes, some of the story kills
Yeah.
got a response from me, in terms of how it was
Alright.
depicted. When I felt like, all right, this is uncomfortable to watch. Not in the way that
Yeah.
detracted from the experience, but it wanted to get emotion and reaction from me, and it did. Which,
Yeah. And that, I mean, that's fulfillment of an artistic purpose. So you got to commend them for that, right?
Yeah, I do, but I do know that for some people, I've read a lot of comments on videos of the on this game and stuff, and some people felt like the violence was too much. To them, I say, The Last of Us just probably isn't the game for you, because this one is
Yeah.
like as dark as it gets, pretty much.
Yeah. So okay, so let's go into like discussion now for the game. Basically, your conclusion is that it's a really solid title.
Yeah,
Maybe not a 10 out of 10 game like you said, but even though it was still very very solid and a true AAA good experience from Naughty Dog.
for me, yeah, from me, yeah. But also it has the disclaimer that it's very dependent on whether or not the story works for you. In my case, it did,
Yeah.
so it might not
Yeah.
work for you. Um, But I would still say, it's even if you hate certain points of this story, know that there's still a lot of game to go through, and I would say
Mm.
it's still worth play it through to the end and make up your mind after the dust has settled. Is my recommendation.
Yeah. Okay. So let's go into like the maybe not directly into the controversy, but like a spoiler segment right now. So we're gonna be spoiling stuff.
Yeah. So turn off right now. Thanks for listening thus far. For those one point
You,
one
yeah,
ten.
you. I'm pointing. I'm pointing at you. You didn't play it. Okay. Turn off.
Yeah. But okay, so let's go into the story discussion then. So, how much do you know? Like, how much did you catch?
Yes, I know that Joel is killed
Yeah.
fairly early on in the game,
Yes.
and that is kind of a it's let's say it's the fulcrum of the story. It sets off the dual purpose because Joel is kind of like the father figure for Allie, and the thing, maybe the one, even though she's mad at him for not giving her like a choice, like from the first game, she still kind of carries a lot of emotion towards him, and feel that choice maybe now is further away than ever because he's dead.
Yeah.
And yeah, and that kind of is the pivotal point of the story where he's killed, and it creates this kind of eternal animosity thing,
Yeah.
uh, that basically was a revenge kill, a vengeance kill.
It was.
Uh, yeah, and that is kind of the premise of the story. Hate, 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 and like a never-ending cycle of vengeance. And if you kill somebody to get vengeance, there's always like somebody they held dear that will continue on and hate you for what you did, and it goes on and on and on. And do you really repair anything by
Yeah.
hating?
And the other thing here is that also the cost of it, like
Yeah,
how far are you willing to go, and what are you willing to sacrifice to achieve it, is also
yeah.
like a very much a focal point here. So
Mm.
I don't know, like to what point. I know that the footage in the leaks is about Joel getting clubbed by the baseball bat and whatnot, but I don't know, like where does the clip start and where does it end?
It's not that graphic. I think that the entire scene is more horrific.
Yeah, but do you see
But
the lead up to it? Do you see like how it happens, or do you just see him strapped there with the fucked up leg, and then she just like,
you see like the start of it, and then she comes over with the bat, and I can't really remember how detailed it is because I haven't seen the real. I can't compare.
Right.
I haven't seen the
So
real
yeah, because I
gameplay.
mean from the game perspective, this happens in the very beginning,
Mm,
still in the prologue, and you play first a bit as different characters, but then also Ellie,
yeah.
and you get to know some of the new characters in the new settlement that Joel and Ellie is living in, called Jackson, where you get introduced to Dina, which is like Ellie's love interest, and there is
Yeah.
um, like their mutual friend Jesse,
Hmm.
and then there's also, of course, Tommy and Joel. But then you also kind of like, as you're learning the ropes and kind of get filled in on the world building and where everything is, you kind of range around with Ellie and Dina, and you kind of also get the, how to say, it's a great way to do a tutorial because they fill you in with very story appropriate kind of storytelling, and
Hmm.
at the same time as they kind of like teach you how to play, and you also get to grow more attached to those characters like Jesse and Dina and like, yeah, the others. But then of course
Yeah.
you play a little bit as Abby all of a sudden,
Hmm.
and Abby is from another faction. She is out in the snow with her friends. Her ex-boyfriend called named Owen, and
Hmm.
his new girlfriend and some other people, and then it's clear that Abby is looking for somebody. It turns out she's looking for Joel. And of course,
Yeah.
they end up running from some infected together, whereas Abby kind of leads Joel and Tommy into her base, or like her
Uh-huh.
where her friends are stationed, because like Joel is the one she's after. Because it turns out, of
Yeah.
course, the head doctor that was supposed to do the procedure on Ellie in the first game is happens to be Abby's father.
Yeah.
And so she is hell bent on revenge. She has kind of prepped herself in the 4 years since the first game, since those incidents. She has like, you know, she's just been training hard, just constantly going out on missions to hunt down the rival faction. She's become a top soldier, and she's become like fucking buff, and like, yeah. Um, and then okay, so they kill Joel while Ellie's watching, and then but Tommy and Ellie is spared because they were ultimately only looking for Joel. So they let Ellie
Yeah.
go and Tommy, and then Ellie's just like, well, Ellie and Tommy, they're both like, yeah, we got to get these guys, no matter what it takes, blah blah blah. Tommy runs
Yeah.
off on his own first, and then Ellie kind of goes after, to catch up with Tommy and to find Abby and kill her and her friends. And
Ooh.
the thing is, like, this kind of takes Ellie across Seattle, and the game takes place over 3 days. The first 3 days is Ellie, and then it comes up to like a certain point
Hmm.
where Ellie and Abby catch up. But then before you get to see
Yeah.
what happens there, then you go back to Seattle day one and play the whole thing as Abby.
Okay. So that's how they kind of switch it up.
Yeah. And a lot of people hated the fact that they had to play as Joel's killer. Um,
Okay.
because when it's kind of hard to, how to say, they took a risk. I'll admit that much, because Joel is a
Yeah.
beloved character. We know he's done some dark
Hmm.
shit in the past as well, and then of course,
Yeah.
you could argue that it wasn't right of him to save Ellie, but at the same time, you do understand him, because like it is his daughter in a sense, Ellie. I mean, and he already lost one
Hmm.
daughter at the beginning of Last of Us One. Obviously, he's very, very emotionally inclined to do it. And
Yeah.
as Tommy, his brother, says when he first confesses to him, Tommy says like, "Shit, that's a lot, but hell, I can't say I'd do any different." And yeah,
Oh.
if I was in his position, I probably would have done the same thing, whether it's rational or not. Um,
Yeah. I mean, it's a very, very hard ethical dilemma to face. Extremely hard, I would say.
yeah,
All right. So.
but getting into the nitty gritty, um, you do play as Abby. You play through those 3 days, and a lot of people were just like, "No, I don't. I know that you're trying to humanize Abby here, but it's not going to work. You kill Joel. Doesn't matter how good a person you are. Otherwise, fuck you." Like a lot of people are taking that stance.
Yeah.
And in the beginning, I actually did that too.
Yeah.
Um, but then, Abby grew on me.
Hmm.
And considering what Ellie does to get to Abby, she kills all of Abby's friends, even the ones that were actually opposed to what happened and got appalled by how Abby tortured Joel.
Mm.
Like Mel, the pregnant lady that's currently, with Owen and all that. She's just like, no, fuck you, Abby, you're a piece of shit. Like I'm still shook by what you did. Some of her friends are taking a distance to her
Hmm.
for this,
Hmm.
and like, but you still kill all of them. You catch up and you kill them in these brutal kind of like showdowns where they just get fucked up. And Ellie's dragging her friends along into this, like Dina, who's also pregnant, turns out, and
Yeah.
it's her girlfriend as well. And same with Jesse, he's also coming along, and then eventually they catch up with Tommy and his things. But all of these people, they get so much shit for joining Ellie on her revenge crusade, and you know,
Yeah.
then they like there was a certain point where I felt Ellie went too far,
Yeah.
where I kind of felt less sympathetic to her cause because I felt like she went too far, and that was when she enters like she chases down one of the people that was present at Joel's murder, one of Abby's friends named Nora, who turns out is
Yeah.
one of the
Right.
doctors that was present also at Ellie's surgery. But here's the thing, Nora, when you get to see it from her side, Nora was the one who told Joel she was against doing the operation because it would kill Ellie. So she was the
Yeah.
one who told Joel that the procedure was going to kill her because she felt like he deserved to know for going through all that shit with Ellie to get her to that position.
Yeah. Right.
So arguably, this lady had very little to do with all this, and yet Ellie kind of fucking bashes her, like breaks her arms and legs, and fucking beats her to death with a lead pipe after she's clearly given up and she's gonna die from spores and
Ooh.
everything. And the way it happened, I was a bit like, was that really necessary? Considering Abby and her friends,
Hmm.
they only killed Joel. They spared all
Yeah.
the others.
Is it?
Uh,
But is it believable though? Is it believable for her, for the character to
yeah,
be so violent and
it
so?
is.
Yeah. Yeah.
I didn't see. I didn't think it was out of place. I just thought that it
Yeah.
made me side less with Ellie morally.
With LA. Yeah. Right. And that, I mean, I think that that is really really important in like a kind of story presentation point of view for it to be believable, even though you kind of switch sides from that extreme action,
Definitely.
because it's very very easy not to build up that action properly, and
Yeah.
so have it being, a little bit like, whoa, you know, you were like a good morally sound character before this, and now you're
Yeah.
fucking a murderer.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Um.
But still, if it's believable, if you can believe it in the context of the story, that's you know, kudos to the writers.
Yeah. I. It comes to a point where ultimately, I mean, she's chasing after Abby, right? And Abby
Hmm.
turns out found a couple of kids that are from their rival faction. So like Abby's with the wolves, and then
Mm.
they're opposed to the other faction that I mentioned earlier called the Scars, which are kind of low tech, believing in this prophet lady, and they're like trying to live off the land, so they have inhabited this island, and then they just go on raids using bows and like, yeah, and
Yeah.
they're like cult fanatics. They kind of like, you know,
Right.
call themselves Seraphites, very like holier than thou attitude, but the others call them
Yeah.
Scars because they have this ritualistic kind of like the Joker from Dark Knight Rises, or like the Dark Knight,
Yeah. Yeah.
kind of
Right.
like Scars. And then there's these two kids where one of them is, feels like he is a man trapped in a woman's body.
Mhm.
So instead of following and becoming like a wife to one of the elders, as is expected of women, he shaves his head as the men would do, which they didn't like, the cult. So,
Oh,
but he decided to do it anyway. And then brought his sister along, and then they ran off and they became like apostates or outcasts. And Abby meets them, and you
yeah,
see
right.
this in one of the trailers, the first trailer that Abby was released, where she's strung up.
Yeah,
So that's that scene actually, and that's when she meets the kids first, and then you kind of help
right.
them. She protects them and kind of becomes to them as Joel was to Ellie in the first game.
Yeah, right.
And Abby is very much trying to realizing that some of her friends are hating what she did and stuff. She's kind of trying to do right by them, to make amends,
Okay.
and like feels like she's kind of like, all right, I gotta find another purpose to do something better.
Yeah, right.
And you know, and that part is important because ultimately Ellie kills absolutely all her friends, even her the pregnant lady that took distance from Abby, and
Mhm.
Owen, that was the father of the upcoming child. They just killed them both. Killed their fucking dog Alice, which they go to such lengths to make you care for when you play as Abby, and you've already
Yeah.
killed that dog in Ellie's part. And I was just like, "Fuck, man, this is."
Yeah.
I feel so shit now.
And
Um,
that's an interesting mechanism, right? You see
yeah,
kind of the repercussions later
yeah,
after you did the killing, right? So you can feel the impact of what you did, what you already know you did
yeah,
in a different way.
and absolutely, yeah, absolutely. And by the time Abby comes back from the island, there's a big point about that, like with the scars, where they are trying to. She's helping the kid, like one of the kids who fled back to the island to try to convince their mom to come back with them, but the mom is hugely fanatical, so they
Mm.
have to go save the kid because they like the sister knows that the mom is gonna kill her or like
Yeah, right.
kill him. And so you have to do that. You go to the Scar Island just as the wolves are doing a huge assault there, and it all goes to shit. And like ultimately, only Abby and the little boy makes it out. The sister dies, right? And then they come back to the
Mm.
aquarium where her friends are located. They're also kind of distancing themselves from the wolves and trying to go to a different like safe haven that they've heard about.
Yeah.
And then of course Abby comes back to find everyone dead.
Oh.
After she was told by the pregnant lady that, yeah, you caused destruction and shit to everybody around you, blah blah blah. And then Abby's like,
Yeah.
all right, you guys go to the safe haven, let me just save this kid, bring him along with you to the place, I'll stay out of your way. Then she comes back, everyone's
Yeah.
dead. and uh
Ooh.
and by that point I'm like, yeah, you know what, fuck Ellie. This has gone too
Yeah.
far. And I think a lot of people don't agree with me here.
Okay,
But
yeah.
for me, who wasn't like, I mean, I like Joel and Ellie, but I wasn't like, wow, they're the best combination ever. I cannot look past the fact that Joel got shafted, no matter what. Like, seeing
No,
what Ellie
right.
did, yeah, I was actually leaning more on Abby's side at this point. And when they meet up, you know, Abby snuck in to the place where Ellie and her friends are holed up, and she captures Tommy,
Mhm.
and Ellie comes out because and then like Abby just shoots Jesse, Ellie's friend, right in the face, just kills him instantly, and shoots Tommy repeatedly in the back, though he's not dead. And then she's just like, "Drop your fucking weapon." And then Ellie's like, "Oh, no, 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 like don't touch them." And I'm the one you want. I'm the one who was supposed to have the cure. Like, take me there, leave them out of it. And then Abby just looks at her and is like, "You
Yeah.
killed all my friends." It's like I'm like, "Oh, yeah, okay, now I feel that."
Mm.
And ultimately, it's a big showdown where Abby absolutely fucks Ellie up, and Dina, like her girlfriend who's pregnant, comes to try and save her, and Abby just like bashes her face to the floor and shit, not killing her though.
Okay.
But it's she doesn't kill. Well, she killed Jesse, arguably because he bursted in with a gun. But she didn't kill
Yeah.
Tommy. She didn't kill Dina, and she left Ellie alive as well. And just because the kid that she's protecting came in and stopped her,
Yeah. Right.
because at this point she was kind of like, even Abby was like, I'm so pissed that you killed all my friends, even my pregnant friend and stuff. And then she learns that she grabs Dina and is about to kill her, and Ellie's like, no, she's pregnant, and Abby's just like, good. and then the kid is just like, no, just don't do it, please, like for me. And then Abby's like, she decides against it, and then she spares Dina as well. And then she just tells Ellie that, who's at this point is like bashed in and she's like coughing blood and stuff. And Abby's just like,
Mm.
never let me see you again. She leaves, and it's all very like, whoa. But they all got out of it in the end, right? Wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Turns out they do a little time skip. Dina and Ellie has settled on a farm that they've been talking about throughout the adventure. That Dina wanted to settle down in a place like a big farm. They wanted to like have a safe place, and they have it. And she's given birth to Jesse's kid, right? That Ellie's
Yeah.
now they've become a family, and
Mm-hmm.
it's all kind of nice. It's a little bit somber, but you thought, all right, maybe they broke the cycle. But then suddenly Ellie just kind of, you still get, she has heavy PTSD,
Okay.
and you
Yeah.
get to see this. And then Tommy comes back, and he's handicapped at this point. He's limping, and he has
Yeah.
like a lazy eye, and he looks pretty shit. And he
Yeah.
just comes to the farm, and he says like, yeah, I've put some feelers out. We've located Abby. Let's go. Obviously I can't go, but you should go, he tells Ellie. And then Dina's like, no, we don't owe you shit. Like, get out of here. We're done. We got out of it, right? But then
Yeah.
Ellie's like, no, I can't sleep. I have to do this. And then Dina's like, yeah, but if you do that, we're not gonna be here when you come back. Like, you it's that or us. And
Yeah.
then Ellie still decides to go after Abby. And then there's
Okay.
this
That's interesting
whole
stuff.
additional chapter that I wasn't expecting, where you're in Santa Barbara in California, and first is Abby and the kid Lev, and
Mm-hmm.
then they're looking for this base of uh, these other, like the Fireflies from the first game, the ones that were actually trying to make the cure, because there was this
Yeah.
rumor that
Right.
they had like a debris group, they had like a different group, and then she manages to establish contact with them. And she's like, yeah, fuck, damn, like, we're coming to you. And as soon as they exit the garage, they got knocked the fuck out and strung up by these heavily armed thugs called the Rattlers.
Okay.
And what they do is they keep, the, you know, they're kind of like almost like Negan from Walking Dead. They're kind of like,
Uh-huh.
they keep walkers as pets, like chained up,
Oh.
and
Yeah.
they capture people alive and use the women for baby making, and then they use the men for slave labor.
Yeah.
Um, and Then Ellie catches up and finds Abby, ultimately kills almost all the Rattlers. And she finds Abby. She's strung up on a pole together with Lev. She's lost a lot of her muscle mass. Her hair is cut short, and she looks fucked up.
Yeah. She's
And
basically like
huh?
broken. She's broken.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And Ellie cuts her down, and
Mm-hmm.
Abby's like, "Oh, it's you. Like, there are bolts down here. Let's go." And and then Lev and Abby climbs into the boat, but then Ellie's like, "No, I can't let you leave." And Abby's like, "I don't want to fight you. Like, you know, I just
Mm-hmm.
don't. Like, we're done." And Ellie's just like, "No, I can't do that." And then she threatens Lev with a knife and stuff. And then Abby ultimately fights her,
Mm-hmm.
in which, you know, it's a very hard fight in which Ellie loses a couple of fingers. Abby gets like completely lacerated up because Ellie fights with a knife, and
Yeah.
they fuck each other up pretty hard.
Yeah.
And ultimately, as she's choking Abby under the water, she gets a flashback of Joel playing the guitar on a porch, and she
Yeah.
starts crying, and she lets Abby go.
Okay.
And a lot of people were like, "What? She let her go only to hunt her down and let her go again?"
Yeah.
A lot of people were thinking like that, and yeah, I can see it. But then I heard someone say that, all right, she, but then she kind of saw the flashback to Joel kind of made her realize that Abby is to Lev what Joel was to her, a
Yeah.
protector, and that's when she kind of let it go. And could it have been handled in a slightly better way? Probably, but it still
Yeah.
worked in that context.
Yeah.
I felt for me it worked, and when by the time Ellie comes back to the farm, her adventure is done.
Mm.
The house is abandoned. Dina and the kid has
Yeah.
left. There's nothing left for her. And the
Mm.
guitar that she got from Joel, that she's been able, you get these small sections throughout the game where you can play it. You
Yeah.
know, now she's missing fingers, so she can't play it so good anymore.
Yeah.
So
Can't
she's lost her
play.
connection to Joel as well. So that's
Yeah.
how it
That's
ends.
one happy ending.
Yeah, it's pretty depresso. And yeah, I got into a long-winded rant there, but you know, for me, it worked
Yeah.
for all
It
the
probably
reasons I
for a lot
stated.
of yeah. It was probably probably a lot of people feel the same way. I think that if they were not spoiled, they would at least maybe not
Yeah,
love the game 100%, but not cut it down prematurely. I think that maybe a lot of people were a little too colored by like the whole debacle with the leaks and all of that jazz.
absolutely. And I also think some people took issue with the way Abby looked. I've
Yeah.
heard a lot of people also mention that, oh, there's like feminist agenda in here and stuff, but I really didn't feel that
No.
because I
No.
mean Abby is not unrealistically buff, and
No.
if she's a trained soldier who's that buff, like who's that strong, and she's so
Mm.
like she has a lot of combat experience. Like the things she does, it's not unbelievable. And the other thing
No.
is that she does get overpowered by the huge, like, kind of like the cultist tank people and stuff like that. She gets overpowered
Mhm.
by them,
Yeah.
and she's not unbeatable. It's not like she's like, oh, I'm strong because I'm a woman. I'm better than men. It's never about that. And
No.
I never got any kind of vibe of agenda in this when it comes to gender politics, and
Yeah. Yeah.
I never felt that. And I think that's bullshit. Honestly, if you play the game without thinking about that or without that bias, you're probably not gonna feel it either. Um,
No.
so I don't know. I think it's better if she looks buff because then it's believable that she can do what she does.
Yeah, right.
So I mean, I don't mind
No.
at all.
No, but I mean, all in all, a very interesting game.
Yeah,
I think that I really do like that they experiment and that they are bold with the storytelling. And even though it maybe falls through a little bit in like the last segments that you mentioned, it still seems that they're trying to push boundaries. They're trying to innovate and telling the focus on violence, for instance, and how destructive it is. Because all normal people recognize real violence and how bad it is. You
yeah,
know, and if you don't get emotional when you see real vulnerable people getting abused,
yeah,
then you're a psychopath, right? I mean,
yeah,
most people do react to that, and it's very hard to emulate in a video game because your brain immediately recognizes that this is not real.
yeah,
But I think it's very interesting that they're trying to both with the limits of graphical hardware and stuff like that, but also with the story and kind of building up emotion and really like you said, the small details. Everyone you kill, they have their own identity, they have their own struggle. They don't want to be killed in the moment of despair when they realize that it's going one way. They kind of you feel for them. You see that they're just small, afraid creatures. They're going to lose the most important thing in their life.
Yeah.
Their own existence, So that's powerful. I think that's really powerful. And like you said, you can almost get like fatigued from such a strong emotional impact, from time to time.
Yeah. That's
I think
true.
that most people can react to that, and when you play a video game, often you want to kind of escape the drudgery or the sad state of your own existence, right?
Yeah.
You want to experience something that's fun. You want to feel like an overpowered superhero, simulate some kind of fantasy.
Yeah, definitely.
But and that's the thing that all people will kind of not. I think that some people won't enjoy being so seriously involved in the game. If you get what I'm heading it for here.
Yeah. Um, yeah.
It's kind of tiring, to be so involved.
That's yeah. I absolutely agree with you there. And I'm one of those people who I also like getting my emotions poked
Yeah.
by these kind of products, whether it be like book, TV show, movie, game, what have you. Um,
Hmm.
and for this game, you know, it got a lot of emotion out of me. It did. Did I get sad? Not really. Did I get shocked?
No.
Yeah, to some,
Yeah.
appalled. Yeah, sometimes I was a little bit like, whoa, what the, oh no, like shit. Uh,
Yeah.
or like you get that like, oh shit, that that kind of
Yeah.
response,
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
and there were a couple of times, especially during some of the scripted fight scenes and stuff, where I was just like, "Oh shit!" Like Jesus, that's okay. You went there, huh?
Yeah. That's powerful. Yeah.
And but I hands down the part I felt the absolute worst was with the fucking dog. Like you do kill dogs from time to time during the game because the wolves, especially, they have these trained combat dogs that kind of like run after you, sniff you out, and pin you down.
Yeah.
But there's this one sequence when Ellie finally catches up to the aquarium where Abby's friends are, even though Abby has already
Yeah.
gone to the Scar Island. But you sneak in, and then suddenly you're attacked by a dog, and this is yeah, and you stab the dog, and
Ooh.
it dies and it bleeds out and dies, right?
Yeah.
And then she kills Abby's friends, though arguably through she wasn't intending to kill them, but then her stupid handling of the situation made it escalate, and then she had to kill them both. But then
Yeah.
when you play through as Abby, you meet this dog very early on. It's a lovely German
Oh.
Shepherd called Alice, and you
Yeah.
can interactively play with it by like playing fetch. You can pet it, and the dog is so expected and so cute and such a good girl. And it does
Mm-hmm.
this several times at certain points in the story. And every time I had to toss that doll, I felt so shitty. And because
Oh.
I knew I killed that dog. And like
Yeah.
the other thing is that you see um, when both of the kids are still alive, like when the sister is alive as well, she has a fear of
Hmm.
dogs because obviously the wolves use them. So she's been hunted by them before. So she has a trauma.
Yeah. Right.
And then Abby's helping her get over her trauma with Alice by like teaching her to throw the doll for Alice to play fetch with and these things. And I'm just like, oh, this is so sweet, but so horrible because I just killed that dog earlier.
Yeah.
And I was just like, fuck.
Yeah. And that's what I kind of meant, like when I said that some people can get fatigued by that.
Yeah, yeah.
You come home from work and your mind is racing, you're buzzing, and you're just, really tired, and you want to kind of enjoy some escapism. And
Yeah,
then
yeah.
you're hit by this really, really gut wrenching emotional like mechanism that they're using.
Yeah,
that can be a little bit, hard to enjoy for some people, and I can
yeah,
understand that. Even though me myself, I could really appreciate that kind of artistic angle.
yeah.
But yeah,
But yeah, like the thing is, The Last of Us. If you want escapism, I'd say Uncharted is a better way to go.
yeah,
If you go for the same kind of, at least same developer, but The Last of Us. Okay, I can get. Let's say if you're a little bit new, you're not that savvy in what's what in the market. You just got a PS4 maybe, and then you're recommended like, yeah, the Last of Us series is like amazing. You have to play it. It's a must play. And then they actually bought the PS4 for that kind of power fantasy, simple escapism. And then they played The Last of Us, and they're just like, oh, now you're doing a punch and kick combo to my emotions.
yeah, right.
I get that, but arguably, if you are savvy, if you know what kind of game you're getting into, you hopefully you're not expecting just a simple escapism when you play The Last of Us.
Yeah. So all in all, you're pleased with it on most fronts.
It worked for me.
Yeah.
I think a lot of the I think it's just a lot of you know opinions being
Mm,
thrown
mm.
around loudly, and I think it's a lot of bias, and it's just it's just one of those outrage things again.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
It's the internet.
I do think
It's
that,
gamers.
yeah, and ultimately I do get that this is a divisive game. I do get that some people will not be able to side with Abby, not never be able to quite look past the fact that she killed Joel.
Mhm.
Um, but then again, would another game of just Joel and Ellie walking out on an adventure really be that interesting?
I mean, I get it, but I can't really see why they're not accepting that this is like a logical, uh, interesting angle to explore.
Yeah,
Let's put it like that. And I mean, like you said initially, you are just on the receiving end of a product.
yeah,
You can choose to buy it or not buy it, and that entails a certain risk of you not, enjoying it 100%. But I feel that people are so entitled,
yeah,
right? It's like extreme how entitled they are. They feel that I mean, if you don't like it, then you cannot buy it, and it's like you gotta respect that they tried to do something different here.
yeah,
I feel
and
that that's like the a healthy approach to innovation, because otherwise you'll get like a Call of Duty style, regurgitated same formula over and over and over again.
yeah, and ultimately, it's not like Ray Skywalker came in and destroyed your entire factory in Factorio. You know,
No,
it's not
it's
like
not.
that.
It's not that. Definitely not that. I hate it when that happens,
Yeah,
man.
exactly. Damn Ray Skywalker and her anti-factory policies.
Yeah, she's like, and she's not, anyone in particular.
Yeah.
She didn't inherit that trait from anyone,
Now she's Ray Factory Killer.
not from the Senate, at least.
Yeah.
But yeah. So in conclusion, a good game, we thinks, even
Yeah.
though I haven't played it, just watched a little bit of footage here and there. But I've heard you talking about it, of course. So yeah, go play it. Go try
Yeah.
it for yourself and try to be neutral in your approach. So maybe you'll enjoy it. And with that, stay humid.
Stay dank.